So, let me guess. You've been fly fishing for about a year or two now, and you want to up your game. You want to stop paying for all these flies at the fly shop. So then you take a search on Google, and you look up fly tying materials, vices, and all this stuff, and you realize you're about to spend an arm and a leg. Well, I'm trying to prevent that right here, and let me give you guys some tips for just getting started out for fly tying. So this is a new series that I'm starting. It's called Fly Fishing 101. And I really just want to nail at these like kind of tinier topics like fly tying, trout species, even what kind of tippet you use, all right? Because I feel like a lot of that stuff is kind of overlooked when you go on YouTube nowadays, and there's people that are first getting started out and they don't know where to start. Now, if you go on Google and you look up beginner fly tying kits and whatnot, that'll probably work, all right? But what you don't need to do is go on some guy's YouTube channel where he's telling you to buy a $300 Regal vise and all this equipment that you're probably only going to use half of it. It doesn't just come down to the essentials, all right? Sometimes you're just spending money for absolutely no reason. So I'm going to give you a glimpse on the essentials that you need and what you need to get started on tying, rather than just spending a bunch of money that you never needed to spend in the first place. So let's get started on that. Welcome to my lair. So I don't have a whole basement dedicated, nor do I have the space to do so. I have a little corner in my dad's garage where I do all my tying and do all my creating. And I think it's easy to get caught up in what other people have, all right? You look at Instagram, you look at YouTube, and people have shelves and shelves of material. This is my box. This is what I have. I don't have anything more. I don't really need anything more. But I think one of the first things we need to go over is it's really confusing when everybody's telling you to get all these different kinds of stuff. So I'm going to tell you what you need, and I'm going to try and make it as simple and straightforward as possible. Now, obviously at first, you're going to need a vise. Then you're going to want some hooks. Now, when you're first starting out, a hook size between number 12 and number 16 will do you just fine. I tie on jigged hooks, but you don't need to. Beads. A bead size between 2.8 and 3.2 to 3.3 millimeters will fit your size 16 to 14 hooks just fine. And then you're going to want dubbing. Choose any 3 colors. I like hare's ear, and then a flashy color, and then something else. And then you're going to need head cement, a whip finish tool, which isn't needed, scissors, bobbin with thread. You're going to need thread. If I were to pick out 2 colors to start with, I would pick out black and red. And then you're going to need wire, maybe brown, silver, and gold, or copper. You're going to need pheasant tails. And just for some extras, I threw in some peacock herl and a squirrel tail. So here on the vise, I have a size 16 jig hook with a size 3.2 millimeter silver bead on there. The bead might look a little big, but I like my flies to sink better, and to be honest, I'd rather use a bigger bead than use split shot. So now I'm just taking thread wraps to secure that bead right behind the eye of the hook so it's not moving around while I'm trying to tie. And as I'm doing this, I want to get the taper of the fly right too. And this is all stuff that you can look up, or maybe I'll post videos in the future of these terms, taper and size comparisons, but we'll get into that. Now I'm just tying in some silver wire. I want to go down to just about to where the hook starts to bend near the bottom of the hook. Now I'm going to take out my dubbing. For this, I chose a golden stonefly colored pattern because that's just what seems to work around here, even though I don't have a lot of stoneflies, but I think they just like that yellow. Anyways, you can choose any color that you want, as long as when you're putting on the dubbing, make sure it's in a long, thin noodle. It's very easy to get bulky dubbing, and it makes your flies look unproportional. Now I'm just going to wrap that up the hook shank while trying to keep the taper in mind. But if you don't get it perfect, don't worry, because as you can see here, mine does not look perfect by any means, but I'm telling you, the fish don't care that much. Now, if your taper is completely off and your weight's completely off, then it might make a difference, but try not to look too deep into how your flies look, because most of the time, if you present it correctly, the fish do not care. Now I'm going to take that wire and wrap it up the hook shank just to keep that dubbing in place. And then once I get to the top of the fly, I'm going to secure that wire and then snap it off or cut it off with scissors. And then when I'm done, I'm going to use that whip finish tool and take 2 to 3 spins of that. Or if you don't have a whip finish tool, you could just do a half hitch. And if you don't know what that is, you can look up a YouTube video and it'll show you how to do it. This is called a Walt worm, and as simple as it looks, they seem to imitate a wide variety of insects, and trout just can't seem to stop eating these. And to be honest with you, you could completely disregard everything that I just said and just buy a kit. You can buy a kit for 50 to 60 bucks when you're first starting out, and it'll give you a cheap vise and hooks and dubbing and all that kind of stuff. Now, it's not the most versatile. I think if you want and if you have the cash to spend, then this is a good place to get you started. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give is just to keep at it. You know, when you first start, you're going to suck. Your flies are not going to look that good. I know I've been fly tying for 8 years, and sometimes I still look at a pattern and I try and recreate it. In the first few, they look like absolute trash. But then you keep after it, you keep recreating them, and time after time, after you tie them, they get better. So all you can do is just keep practicing. You can watch all the YouTube videos in the world, but it's not going to help you get better. The only thing that's going to help is actual practice. And another thing is be creative. I was out here with my nephew earlier, and I told him to pick out some materials, and I let him tie a fly, and he was just picking out everything, all the bright colors left and right. And I was like, buddy, we can't do that. This is too much. But then I was like, why? Why is this too much? So then I took everything that he gathered and tied a fly, and it didn't look bad, It could probably catch some fish, and you never know if it's going to catch fish until you get out there and use it. A lot of my favorite fly patterns that I've came up with, or they've been variations of other patterns, is just stuff that I've made up, and then I go out and use it, and it may not work, or it could be the hot fly. And then I feel like I'm starting to figure things out when I'm really not, but, it makes me feel better. It's good to use some flies as a reference. You got your hare's ear nymph, you got your pheasant tail nymph, you got your Walt worm. You have all your basics. But don't be afraid to try and make something new, A lot of times when you go out in these trout streams and everybody's throwing the same thing, everybody's throwing a zebra midge or a hare's ear. If you give them something funky looking, they might not be afraid to bite because it's just something new to them, and it might just trigger them. But anyways, that was the first episode. I really hope this helped you guys out even just a little bit. My goal with this series is to put out a video once a week. Right now with my work schedule and just some things going on in my life, I wish I could do more, but this is all I can do for now. So that is my goal. And I'd like to hear from everybody else what they'd like to see, whether it be entomology or fly casting or which fly rod to use or reading water or just on the stream content. So if you could, just leave some recommendations because I really want to help everybody learn and grow as a fly fisherman just as I am too. I'm not a pro by any means, but I've been doing this for long enough that I think I have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next Monday, and thank you so much. See you later.